On a warm, sunny day in the northern part of Hunan Province, Yueyang, an interesting scene unfolded. In the busy square among a crowd of people, a mysterious person sat alone, away from others. There was something intriguing about this person as they sat quietly, lost in thought. He paid no attention to anyone. No one understood who he was or what he was doing here. Suddenly he said, "Just like how the winds blow, time flows past as well." He looked up at the sky, his clothes moving in the wind. In his thoughtful mind, he firmly believed that nothing is left behind. "I am the most evil person in the whole world, regardless of country and age. I have traveled the world without fear. I have left behind a trail of destruction, ending lives without hesitation. I destroyed everything in my path, enjoying their demise and challenging the world itself. The world shuddered at my power. It was afraid of me. It was then that I earned the title of the ultimate divine demon. I kept walking forward, not backing down, with a trail of dead bodies stretching behind me. In the midst of all this destruction, I felt only boredom. Restlessly, I sought adventure in the coldest parts of this realm, longing for excitement that eluded me. Suddenly, among these ice mountains, I heard a sound that made me turn around, and I saw the 8 immortals. They were a group of guardians protecting the Heartland. Each of them looked at me with curiosity, their faces showing different expressions as if they were trying to understand me deeply and pass judgment. They saw my past sprinkled with blood. "Oh, how I wish we could bring him to justice quickly," one of them lamented with frustration. I carefully observed their behavior, calmly noting their lack of wisdom. "Is it really possible that no one can defeat him?" another one complained. Then they used their best and managed to defeat me, and sealed me forever in the darkest depths of Dongting Lake. Surrounded by all-encompassing darkness, I felt completely exhausted, surrendering to the mysterious depths without resistance. Despite their grandiose name, 8 immortals, they are simply lost souls indulging in pleasure. 1,000 years have passed since then. It's unimaginable that I fell for their trickery. No, it was my own weakness that led to my downfall. Time has erased everyone I once knew. Surely no ordinary person could endure 1,000 years. I am now adrift, without a place to call my own, merely a wanderer following the fleeting paths of clouds and wind, navigating the remnants of my existence. It's as if I am entangled in the ghostly memories of my past. I contemplate the changes that have befallen me during my 1,000-year imprisonment. I continue my journey through this new world, looking for something. Ooh! I stumble upon a young girl lying on the ground. At first, I wonder if she is a beggar. As I gazed upon her, it dawned upon me that she lay in a state of unconsciousness. Unresponsive to my presence, she remained motionless. Kneeling down to assess her condition, I noticed faint yet discernible signs of life pulsating within her frail body. In a surprising turn of events, her eyes flutter open, fixing their gaze upon me. I watched in amazement as she came to, but then she closed her eyes again. "Consider yourself lucky, young one." I offer her a helping hand, channeling my restorative energy into her delicate frame. With this infusion of vitality, she should be able to endure. However, a dilemma arises. While this will sustain her life force, there is no physical sustenance available nearby. Unfortunately, there are no signs of any food in the vicinity. But then I remembered the pills. 1,000 years have passed, and uncertainty lingers in my mind regarding the effectiveness of the pills. But even if they are not, the worst that can happen is she'll get diarrhea. In the worst-case scenarios, she might die. Nevertheless, I administer the pills, knowing that without intervention, her fate would be sealed. So I helped her and continue my journey, because only luck can help her. I spent the whole night in the forest, seeking solitude and peace. When I was sitting under a tree, deep in thought about my path, the sound of footsteps broke the silence. Looking up, I was taken aback to see a small hand holding dumplings. It was the child whom I had rescued the day before, her face brimming with joy. I asked with interest, "What is it?" She replied with a wide smile, "Dumplings." Perplexed, I questioned further, "I can see that they are dumplings, but why are you giving them to me?" Yet she simply stood there, gazing at me with sparkling eyes. I assumed that she wanted to express her gratitude or repay the debt. The child gradually approached, extending the food towards me. However, I averted my gaze and declined, saying, "No, I don't want any." It was an unfamiliar gesture to me, but her intentions seemed pure. The following day, she appeared once again with dumplings, and once again, I refused her offering. But the next day, captivated by the aroma and temptation of delicious dumplings, I took them. From that point forward, she brought me dumplings every day, and I gratefully accepted it. For 2 weeks, we shared our meals under the sheltering canopy of the trees. As time passed, I felt the need to continue my journey. I arrived at the nearest village where people carried on with their daily routines. Suddenly, a voice pierced the air, exclaiming, "Hey, you fool!" Curious, I turned around and saw a crowd gathered around a merchant who was mercilessly beating someone, accusing them of stealing. Compelled to intervene, I approached the scene. "How dare you steal my food? This is not the first time. Today I will finally punish you." To my dismay, I discovered the little girl lying on the ground clutching a couple of dumplings. I recognized her immediately. "You're so young and you've already resorted to stealing?" the angry seller exclaimed. "Did she give me stolen food?" I sighed. However, I could not stand idly by, watching a child face such brutality. In a swift act, I broke the vendor's arm, causing him to yelp in agony. The girl lay on the ground, moaning in pain. This situation made me angry, and I decided to leave the place quickly. I was blissfully unaware that the food the child brought me was stolen. Despite the risk of being caught and punished, she continued to provide for me. I reflected while running, discontent with the turn of events. I ran without looking back and did not know where to go. As I ran through the green forest with lush green grass under my feet, I stopped to get my bearings. It struck me with a sudden realization. This place, it was familiar. It was the tranquil lake where the prisoner was held captive. Dongting Lake. Could it be that Dan Uhyeon, the once invincible deity who had ravaged half the world, was imprisoned in this picturesque and peaceful setting? Suddenly a familiar face appeared from the thick foliage. With unrestrained joy, she cried out,
"I found you!"
Her legs bore the evidence of numerous cuts and bruises. Puzzled, I asked, "Why were you chasing me?" She gazed at me, her eyes filled with earnestness, and replied,
"I don't want to be alone anymore."
At that moment, I had a single thought. I have been alone for too long. I inquired of her name.
Hwasomi.
She responded promptly. Maybe this child is my destiny, I thought, and said, "Okay, I'm Dan Uhyeon." Inviting her to join me, we embarked on our journey together, two souls intertwined by chance or fate. We continued our journey. Under the cover of the dark night, we were warmed by a bright fire. Hwasomi fell asleep on top of me. I felt sorry for her. I offered her to come with me, but I had nothing to offer her. Then I decided that I had to build a house. And I remembered that when I was a kid, I had a house that I wanted to live in. Maybe I could finally realize my dream. The next day was a beautiful sunny day. Hwasomi woke up to some noise, but when she looked closely, she saw a brand new house that was just amazing. She ran up to me and asked in awe,
"Is this a house?"
"Yes," I answered. The girl could not understand how this was possible.
"But there was nothing here yesterday."
She repeated. I didn't want to talk about my capabilities, so I said, "Yesterday there was an old house here, and I repaired it a little."
"No, there was nothing here."
She continued. "Yes, there was," I said firmly. Most likely because of the seriousness of my appearance, she thought she had made a mistake, and that satisfied me. I didn't know what she was thinking in her mind.
"It can't be that such a cool house appeared here overnight. And the walls are made of ochre, and everyone knows that it is very difficult to find."
But she didn't show it, and continued to praise the house with sincere pleasure. "I'm glad you like it. It was quite difficult to build."
"Build it?"
She asked me again. No, I mean to renovate it." I need to control what I say, I thought. But then she asked,
"Why is there no fence here? Isn't that why this house is abandoned?"
I left her question unanswered, and the next day she exclaimed,
"Wow, it is a fence."
I just answered, "It looks like it's always been there," and added, "It really was here."
"But I didn't tell you anything."
She smiled. She looked at the fence, wondering how high it was. Suddenly she sighed and sat down on the grass. I asked her, "What's wrong?"
"You know, don't you think it's a little empty here?"
The next day I did my best. A huge tree and a pond made the place more picturesque.
"Wow, this wasn't here yesterday."
Hwasomi was surprised. "It was here," I answered firmly again. She leaned over the pond, peering into the crystal water, and I realized how much work was left. We still need to make beds, arrange rooms, but the first priority, of course, is food. A child cannot go hungry. I have to take care of it. It would be nice to live such an ordinary life, I thought and smiled.
You know, there's something missing here.
Hwasomi started to say. I could not stand it and said, Quiet, don't say anything else. I decided to continue working on our comfort.
What are you doing?
The little girl asked. A container in which we can take a bath.
A bath?
She was surprised. Yes, to wash ourselves. I could feel the little girl about to run away. She clearly didn't like the idea. Stop and stay here, I said firmly, and added, I bought you some new clothes yesterday, but if you want to try them on, you need to be clean.
But you look great even without a bath.
She began to flatter. I do, but not you. Interrupting her attempts to escape, I picked her up and threw her into the water.
No, I'm clean, I'm clean.
Hwasomi screamed. Of course, her words had no effect on me. We spent a lot of time washing off all that dirt. The girl kept complaining about her fate, as if it was a swamp with frogs instead of a bathtub. But the result was worth it. Now she looked like a human being. Did the clothes fit you? I asked.
Yes, it's the best clothes I've ever had. It's so beautiful.
She laughed as she danced. I was worried it wasn't your size.
Even if it wasn't my size or if it looked cheap and old, it would still be okay, because if I'm with you, everything is okay,
she said, smiling. You're very good at talking, I said, but I realized that her words were nice to me. I want us to just live peacefully, like we do now, I told her.
We can do that,
she shouted happily. Did I see who was outside? No, I was happy to have a family, and let my guard down. Meanwhile, another scene was unfolding in the city. People were discussing a new mansion that had appeared near Dongting Lake. Some argued that the new building could not have appeared out of nowhere in a few days, but the governor, Hong Wan-chang, took an interest in it. He asked his subordinates if people were telling the truth, but he didn't really believe the rumors, thought they were absurd, and decided to see for himself. Late at night, the governor and his men set off with torches lighting the way. Behind him, two of his subordinates were discussing that the governor was not in the best of health. But one of the men said he knew why. As it turned out, there was a group of bandits roaming around the outskirts of Hunan province. And it's so terrible that even the royal family is concerned about it. But the worst part is that the leader of this gang is Chan Baek-sang. He is so good at martial arts that even the best assassins don't dare to get close to him. He also has cavalry skills, able to escape from the best horsemen. But one day he was sent the heads of his family members, and from that day on, he became uncontrollable, fierce, and insane. The ruler was walking, sighing at how hard this year had been, and he looked into the distance, where a new mansion stood. He began to ask his people if what he was seeing was real. The new building stood majestically in the darkness. Behind the governor's back, he heard a scream, and his subordinate suddenly fell to the ground, making a noise and apologizing to the governor. The subordinate even said that it was some kind of ghost that knocked him down, but the governor only skeptically told them to move on. The governor didn't see me appear behind him. He just felt the air electrified. I stood in the middle of this crowd with a rabbit in my hands that was to be my dinner. I don't remember inviting guests. I began the conversation. The governor thought he sensed murderous intentions and replied, "Are you the owner of the new estate?" "Yes. And who are you?" "I am Yueyang's current governor, Hong Wan-chang," the man replied proudly. "I'm Dan Uhyun," I replied calmly. "Did you build this house?" the governor asked, pointing to my mansion. "I just renovated it." I did not understand the point of all these questions. "Are you kidding? This is state land. You can't build anything or live here without my consent. Don't say you didn't know about it," the governor shouted. Of course I didn't know, but it didn't seem like a good idea to talk about a 1,000-year imprisonment. "So why don't you give your consent now?" I asked naively. "What?" he shouted in anger. I threw a rabbit at his feet to add some visual effects and said, "Close your eyes and let me live here." But my hopes were not realized. The governor shouted, "Arrest him!" I was calm that Somi was sleeping and decided not to aggravate the situation and see how it would end. I didn't quite understand where we were going, and the governor kept saying that I had chosen the wrong person to intimidate and that he would not let me escape so easily. I just looked at him and thought that it was my old enemies who ordered the governor to take me away, and I realized that I had to get out of here. The governor, in turn, was thinking about getting rid of this weirdo as soon as possible and finally getting some rest. And then something strange happened. I felt someone's presence. The people around me also felt the tension, but they thought I was a threat and shouted at me not to break the law. Suddenly, the man who was holding me tied up fell unconscious behind me. The governor shouted, "What's going on?" But before he could get an answer, hundreds of arrows fell from the sky. People were screaming in pain. Arrows pierced them, leaving holes in their bodies. The arrows continued to rain down. The governor asked in a trembling voice what had happened, looking at the corpses lying on the road. The terrified governor's face was sweating with fear. A piercing cry came from the forest. "Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha! Hongwan Chang!" The governor looked at the man who had called his name. It seemed that the stranger was hiding behind an entire army. Only his eyes shone with rage. The governor was numb with fear and could only say, "You are Chung Pek-san?" But he mockingly replied, "Ha-ha, I didn't think you were brave enough to walk around here." The big man continued to smile and threatened the governor that his life would end today. The governor's brain began to work faster, thinking of ways to save himself. It's been almost 6 months since Jang Baek-san received the severed heads of his family. I didn't think he would hunt me for so long. All I was worried about was that Somi was sleeping, and these screams might wake her up. And the governor's brain continued to analyze the situation feverishly. This guy won't help me, and the only weapon I have is my sword. But it's obvious that I can't defeat so many people. Besides, this is a group of professional killers led by Jang Baek-san. Suddenly, one of the bandits, who looked no less menacing than the leader, shouted, "Let's kill him already! We'll finally avenge your wife! I'll cut off his limbs and give them to the dogs to eat!" But the governor did not give up. "Please have mercy on me," he appealed to the leader. Jang Baek-san punched Hongwan Chang in the chest and said with great pleasure, "I've always waited to hear these words, and today is the day. Haha, this is the best day of my life. I want to see this frightened face forever. But, unfortunately, I won't be able to, because today will be the day of your funeral." The governor shouted in despair, "Take him away from here. I want him to feel what hell tastes like," the leader continued. But then the governor turned to me and shouted, "Save me, please." And the bandits' attention turned to me. "What should I do with him, boss?" one of them asked. I didn't show any fear or cowardice, just stood there waiting. Jang Baek-san looked at my bandaged hands and said, "Consider yourself lucky," and cut the ropes. "If it weren't for us, you would have been in serious trouble." I felt the freedom in my hands and decided to leave, but again the governor reminded me of himself. "Save me. I will do anything you want if you help me." I decided that this proposal made sense, so I called out to the leader, "Hey, Fluffy, wait!" "Don't tell me you're talking to me," Jang Baek-san was surprised. "Yes, I'm talking to you. What do you want to do with him?" I asked. "I'm going to kill him the way he killed my family," he replied firmly, looking at the crying governor. But I decided to add a little drama. "It looks like you killed a lot more people than the governor, so you can say that Hongwan Chang avenged them." The crowd started to shout, but the leader stopped them. "So you want to save him?" The governor cried even more, and I assessed the situation, looking at the people I would have to fight. I counted about 50 people and decided I could handle it. "Do you want to live?" I asked the governor. "If so, here is my condition. Never raise the issue of my estate." The governor did not immediately realize which estate I was talking about, because he had forgotten even his name out of fear. But after gathering his thoughts together, he desperately said, "If you save me, I will do anything." "Shut up, you bastard!" Someone from the crowd shouted and kicked him, making him fly away. "Here's how it will be. If someone decides to step aside, they won't get hurt." I began. A man came up to me, covered in scars, with a frantic look, who started shouting, "What? What the hell are you talking about, asshole?" and attacked me with all his fury. I don't want to brag, but I didn't even blink. He didn't even have time to touch me, as he flew through the crowd and fell face first to the ground. I learned his name when the leader shouted, "Jang Woo!" The governor was also shocked, but realized that he had a chance. People began to say that Jang Woo was one of the 3 best among them, and that it was nonsense to defeat him so easily. At that time, Jang Baek-san stood there with a stone face and thought, I didn't even see the moment of impact. How could this stranger be tied up and subdued with such strength? I think he may be stronger than I, but now he is alone and there are many of us. We have a numerical advantage. I have defeated opponents stronger than me before. It is better to kill him now. And with all the anger he could muster, Jang Baek-san shouted, "Kill him!" I didn't wait for them to attack. Just one move was enough to throw them away. As some of my opponents were hanging from trees and others were lying on the ground, one thought came to my mind. Do I need to kill them? Killing is effortless. They will all die from one blow. I don't want to see blood again, but I have someone to protect. I understood what I had to do and couldn't make up my mind right away, but the time had come. I moved with a sharp movement, kicking up a column of dust. The faces of the governor and the leader were filled with shock. A second later, I was holding one of the bandits by the neck. I looked at young Baek-san. He looked helpless. Then everything happened very quickly. I threw my sword up and started throwing stones at my opponents. The fragments of the blade also fell on their heads, causing incredible pain. Soon, all of Baek-san's subordinates were destroyed. Jang Baek-san felt shocked, hopeless, and afraid. He realized that he was facing an extraordinary person, and that it was impossible to fight against him. How can a person gain such strength? He is different from all the martial artists I have met. What kind of revenge can I think of? If I make a move, he will kill me. Jang Baek-san thought feverishly and shouted, "You rascal!" And he began to run as fast as he could, leaving the bodies of his dead comrades behind. For the first time in his life, he was running away from the battlefield. I looked after him and thought, this is not like his behavior at all. The governor interrupted my thoughts. "Don't let him go! I need to catch him! Please catch him for me!" He begged me on his knees. What a coward! But it's not in my nature to chase someone who is running away to save lives. But if I want there to be no more questions about the estate... I quickly ran after Jang Baek-san, and in the middle of the dark forest in the midst of the trees I caught up with him. I grabbed him by the head and threw him face first into the ground. Having done my job, I returned to the governor, who was hanging from a tree. I turned to him. "This is the end of our agreement. I hope you understand what I'm talking about." The governor nodded his head and happily said, "Yes, but if you raise the issue of the estate again," I began to threaten. No, that will never happen, I promise." Hong Wan-chang pitifully interrupted me. "And don't tell anyone about me," I added. Yes, the governor cried. Suddenly I remembered Somi and decided to be a little nicer. "It's good that you understand." I smiled. But this kindness did not work on the governor. "What kind of monster is this? What is he doing here? I have to give him what he wants. I will go around his estate and the land on which it stands." The next morning, Hua Somi and Dan Eun-hyun were walking in North Hong Kong, Yuyang Market. Hua Somi overheard 2 women talking about Jang Baek-san and said,
It seems that the bad guy who was active in this region was caught. To be honest, I was a little afraid of him when we were together in the forest.
"Were you afraid of him even when I was with you?"
Well, a little bit, but now he's been caught, so...
Hua Somi smelled an amazing odor in the middle of the street. But Dan Eun-hyun was thinking that the bandits had been captured and the governor who was in charge of the estate had disappeared, so there was still one more problem. But when he looked up, he saw a lot of delicious food and different dishes, and Hua Somi's voice.
Wow, how delicious it looks!
And I realized that while I was solving one problem, I was not paying attention to the main one. When you raise a child, you need money first and foremost. A lot of money. When I lived alone, I could sleep anywhere and as long as I wanted. If I was hungry, I just hunted. So I don't quite understand where to get money. I only know that I need a lot of it, because I am responsible for another life. And why didn't I think about it before? I told Somi it was time to go home. I was walking fast. Somi could barely keep up with me, and I kept thinking about how to make money.
Hey, look at this.
I didn't quite understand what she was pointing at.
Wait a minute.
Somi started to kick the ground away.
I'm almost done.
What are you doing? Somi showed me the beautiful flower.
I'm going to take it home and plant it.
Can you do that? It looks like it's pretty well rooted.
Yes, can't you see I'm strong?
Somi began to pull the plant with zeal. It looked like her head was going to explode. But I noticed something else. There were footprints on the ground that didn't belong to us, and the plants around the flower had been torn out recently. Somi was still trying to figure out the flower, making strange noises. I thought, did someone plant this plant here on purpose? And Somi was finally able to fulfill her plan.
Haha, I told you I was strong enough. But there's a strange package tied to a flower. I think we should open it and see what's inside. I'm really curious.
How dare you take other people's things! The stranger suddenly shouted. He was about to attack Somi and put a knife to her face. Of course, I did not let the girl get hurt. Throwing the knife away, I grabbed the stranger and asked him, "Who are you?" But the guy did not answer. He was thinking, what is wrong with this man? My arms hurt. How can he be so strong? But I didn't let him think any further. I picked him up by the arm and threw him to the ground. He landed with an incredible thud. I think he was in great pain. He was just wheezing, not even trying to get up. Somi could not take her eyes off the fight and suddenly fainted. I grabbed her in time. It was probably too much of a shock for her. I knew that someone was on my territory, but I didn't think that Somi would be attacked. If that guy had hurt her, I would have killed him right away. But it seems he only wanted to scare us. At least I hope so. But what's inside the bag if he was protecting it so much? I decided to take a look, and when I saw it, I immediately realized what it was. A plan came to me immediately, and I approached the guy and took him with us. It was already nighttime when the stranger began to slowly regain consciousness. Suddenly he realized that he did not know where he was. "Are you awake?" I asked. Who are you?" the guy asked timidly. "I'm Dan Woohyun," I answered, looking intently into his eyes. Why is his gaze so cold? I feel dangerous just looking into his eyes. The stranger thought. "When you attacked Somi, I wanted to kill you here and now, but I changed my mind. Why do you think?" "I don't know, sir," the boy said. "Every life has a value. How much do you think yours is worth?" I asked. "I think it's worth 1 million yang." "You think you are very valuable, but I really think I'm worth that much. To me, you're a simple thief, and it's only worth 1 silver yang. However, each person determines their own value. I think you are confident in your abilities. In that case, you owe me 1 million yang for your life, and 1 million yang for forgiving your attempt to kill Somi. That's 5 million yang in total. That's the amount of money you have to pay to stay alive, and now we're going to go back to yesterday to make things a little clearer." So the governor was bathed in glory upon his return. He was offered food and gifts, but he refused everything. He quickly closed the door in front of his fans. Left alone, he became hysterical. "It's so hard. People look at me in a completely different way because they think that I caught the infamous Zhang Baek-san. But this is very exaggerated, not to mention the faith that the royal family showed me. They told me that a golden Buddha statue had disappeared from the palace. Surely this is the work of an unrivaled thief. And the royal family decided that I could help them. After all, I caught the main bandit, so such cases are easy for me. The stupid thief had to steal without anyone noticing that the statuette was missing. Who on earth could be such a stupid thief? Why did heaven give me so many trials?" But let's get back to tonight. The stranger suspected that his kidnapper was not very good at mathematics. "Are you kidding me? Where am I going to get 5 million niang? I've never held that kind of money in my hands in my life, even though I've been stealing all my life." But looking at him, I realized that he cannot joke. "Please have mercy on me. I will do anything you want. I can cook, wash, clean, anything you want," the thief shouted. But deep down he felt that if he did not keep his word, he would be killed without hesitation. I remembered Somi handing me back a plate full of food and saying that she was no longer hungry, so I guess I wasn't a very good cook. So I decided to use the services of a thief. "Okay, I'll keep your things until you pay off your debt, but if you try to run away, I'll double your debt. Just so you know." That's how I became a slave, doing work without time to rest. I've been here for a week now. If that stupid girl hadn't found the statuette, nothing would have happened. And why is she always spying on me? But I don't have much time. I have to get the statuette to the fence to the appointed place. The statuette for which I risked my life. The statuette of the golden Buddha. That's what the thief kept thinking about.
Wow, it smells and looks so good.
Somi was happy. Cooking suits you better than being a thief, I said. Do you like it? The thief asked. Yes, it's good.
A thief?
Somi asked, surprised. Your salary will be 3 silver nyangs a month. The thief pretended to be very pleased, but there was only one thought in his head. What a bastard. But soon I won't see him again. I finally found where he was hiding the statuette. I just had to find the right moment to take it and get out of here. Then they won't eat such delicious food anymore and I will be very rich. 3 more days passed in this way, and the thief was still indignant. Am I a man who has to wash the floor and do the laundry? I am the greatest thief of all time who stole from the palace. No one could do it. I am incomparable to other thieves, that's who I am. If I decide to run away, no one in the world will catch me. Ha! Why did everything happen the way it did? The fence is probably already there, waiting for me, and if I'm late, I'll die. Of course, I'm safe in the manor. No one is looking for me here. And even if they do, this guy will protect me. But my nature is to steal and spend money on a comfortable life. I am not someone's lackey. Hey, are you there? I called out to our housekeeper. Yes, master, of course I'm here. Me and Somi are going fishing. We'll be gone for a while, so take care of the house. A chance to escape? So suddenly? My food seems to have had a good effect on him. The thief thought happily and said, Don't worry, sir, the house will be clean. But I remind you, running away will only double your debt. Oh no, I'm not going to run away. I am obeying your orders, the thief said flatteringly, but inside he was already triumphant. At last they are gone. Goodbye forever.
But why did we have to go fishing all of a sudden? We have plenty of good food at home.
Somi asked, holding the fishing rod in her hands as I drew a protective circle around her. Keep fishing. I have some things to take care of.
I need to stay in this circle, right?
Somi laughed. You're so smart, right? I replied, knowing that my protection would make her invisible to humans and wildlife.
I'm going to catch a lot of fish.
I'm looking forward to it. I went to the governor's office to settle my business and saw him sitting on the ground, complaining. It wasn't me, I didn't catch Jiang Baek-san. This burden is killing me. I decided to make my presence known by saying, Ahem? You? The governor was startled. I have a good case for you. Meanwhile, the thief had already reached the shopkeeper and was happy to finally get rid of the statuette. The dealer offered 200 nyangs because it was a very difficult item to sell, but the thief agreed to that amount. But how did you manage to survive after stealing such a precious thing? The shopkeeper asked, but the boy just smiled confidently. The vendor handed over the gold and added, Be careful. The governor's office is on high alert after the arrest of Jiang Baek-san. The Jiang Baek-san who actually ruled the entire region of Hunan? Don't worry. If I get caught, I won't say a word about you, the thief replied. Suddenly, there was a stomping of feet, and the merchant's subordinates burst in and shouted that there was a problem. What problem? The shopkeeper shouted. The officers are there! The men panicked. They are everywhere! Someone betrayed us! Who could have done this? The shopkeeper shouted hysterically and saw our thief running away. Well, I'm going, the guy said, and ducked out the window, taking the merchant's wallet and gold with him. The Buddha statue was on a table where the governor saw it and could not believe his eyes. The seller asked who had handed him over, but the governor did not tell the truth. I will not let this end so easily, asshole! Ha! Don't be a joke! Hong Wan-chang replied happily. You won't get away with stealing the golden Buddha. The governor began to rejoice. If I return this precious thing, I will gain the trust not only of the royal family, but also of the emperor himself. I didn't believe his words about the statuette, but here it is. This case is even more successful than the arrest of Jiang Baek-san. At that time, the thief was running away from the bunch of officers and thinking frantically, Why are these bastards so persistent? And this gold is so heavy. I need to get my act together. If they catch me, they will definitely execute me after torturing me. I have to run faster. I need to get to that rock. The guy finally reached the point. His lungs were hurting. His head, legs, arms, everything hurt. "I barely got away," the thief exhaled. "I thought you'd be here sooner," I said. "How did you get here?" The boy screamed and fell down in fear. "Didn't I tell you not to run away from the estate?" The thief was simply in shock, and for a few seconds his brain seemed to not work at all. But then he quickly took his money and jumped off the cliff. "I will never be caught, he laughed. "Oh, stupid guy." The thief flew down, imagining how fast he would run after he landed. But suddenly someone grabbed his leg. "You should be more careful jumping off the cliff. You tore all your clothes." But the boy jerked away and ran on. "And here he is? And here? How is this possible? Wherever I go, he is always waiting for me. He is everywhere." "I told you not to run away," I said calmly, while he pounded his fists on the ground like an offended child. "As I promised, your debt is doubling. So now you owe me 10 million niangs, so even the 2 million you stole doesn't cover your debt." "You asshole!" the thief shouted, swinging at me. But I didn't pay him any attention because I remembered that I hadn't been paid the reward for Baeksan's head, and I had to buy something tasty for Somi. What a wonderful day it is. Some time has passed since the thief returned to the estate. His job hadn't changed, and neither had his hatred for it. After Dan Woohyun caught me again, I worked until I was exhausted until he paid me 3 niangs, and he paid me with the money he took from me. My life is just terrible. Of course, I tried to run away, but he caught me every time. So I gave up and just continue to exist. I, Jang Sam-tai, am just a maid. Oh, some ingredients are out. I have to go to the market. Why is this estate so far from civilization? And I need to get back before Dan Woohyun comes, but I'll definitely be back on time because I'll use the light foot technique. I think someone is following me. Oh, it's her. Why is she hiding?
I hope he didn't see me.
Somi was startled. "Hi, why are you following me?" the boy asked.
Because he...
Somi laughed nervously. "Stop laughing and go back to the house. If anything happens to you, I won't have your head around my neck anymore."
But I'm lonely alone.
Somi began to whine. "Do you even know where I'm going?"
To the downtown.
"That's right. That's why I can't take you, because there are too many people there. And if something happens to you, I'm dead."
But I will always walk beside you, I promise.
That jerk will be back from hunting soon, but it's not right to send a child back alone through a forest full of wild animals. The boy thought and said, "But you have to stick to me, okay?"
Okay.
Somi said, and they set off. It was an interesting adventure for Somi.
Wow, what is this beautiful fruit? Oh, let's run faster, they're catching up with us. What interesting birds fly to me.
And then Somi fell asleep and was woken up by Jang Sam-tai when they were already there.
Oh, we've already arrived.
Somi shouted happily. Yes, but be quiet." The boy noticed that there were many bandits with weapons everywhere. They looked formidable. He thought that the city had become safer since the arrest of the merchant with the stolen goods. What will happen to me when I get caught? I'll definitely not just be arrested. Caught up in his thoughts, Jang Sam-tai didn't see a hand reach out and take Somi away. The bandit took the child and quickly started running away, and Somi was glad to have such an adventure. "Oh no! I'm definitely going to die today!" Jang Sam-tai shouted and ran to catch up with the kidnapper, threatening him. "Do you even know who you've stolen?" He decided to use the light-footed technique to run faster. Stop! The boy shouted. "Why do I have this feeling that something is wrong, as if I'm being lured into a trap? But I have a great incentive to save the girl. Why does everything always go wrong? I need to calm down. I'm getting up to speed. I just need to take Somi away." Jang Sam-tai thought, and made the maximum acceleration, and managed to catch up with the bandit. "Hey, bald head, give me the child back," but the bandit said with a smile. "First check your surroundings before you act." The boy realized he was in trouble. He looked around and saw a crowd of bandits surrounding him. Meanwhile, silence reigned in the estate. Dan Woohyun returned from hunting. As he looked around the house, he realized that he hadn't noticed how big the estate was before. I used to think it was good to be alone, but now I'm used to noisy days. It seems that Somi went with Jang Samtai to the city center, but this place is very dangerous now. Maybe Somi is in danger. I think I need to find them.